Hey, what's up, viewers? Today we are going to be getting the snowboard ready for the season. It's in that point. Tomorrow I'm actually going out for the first day, so I kind of put this off a little long, but no time like now. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and get these bindings removed. That's one of the things to note about waxing board is you typically don't want any of these screws set in because you're going to be applying heat to your board later on, and it's best if it's not affecting the screws or anything, so it doesn't kind of warp them at any point. It's just a best practice, but you can do this with the boots, sorry, not with your boots, your bindings still on, but most people just recommend taking it off. So, take note of where they're kind of set at. Maybe take a picture or something if you care that much, but when you put them back on, you can try to readjust them. It's just easier to readjust them if you have a general idea of where they were to start with. So, maybe just take a picture or something so you get it as close as possible when you go to put them back on. But typically, Phillips number 3 will be, good enough for pretty much any bindings. It's kind of a standard one, but for removing them, I usually try to start out with a wider based one and then move to this, just so that I'm not stripping it out at any point. And I already kind of pre-loosened these to make this video go faster, but I would just kind of break it with the wide one, give me a little more grip, and then remove it the rest of the way with that. So we're just going to go ahead and remove the bindings on all of these. And I just kind of put them near each direction because I like to try and use the same screw, but eventually we're going to clean off these threads and actually put them back in, so it doesn't really matter too much, but it's just something I personally like to do. My board, I do have these inserts, which you can take out too and clean them, but I'm just going to take a brush and clean them in later. That's not really the point of this video, so we're going to skip over that, but typically you can pop these out, slide them, and clean your inserts too. I'm just going to blow them out with some air after scrubbing them with a brush. Alright, once you get the bindings off, we'll walk through pretty much what you need just to do waxing. There's really not a whole lot since we're just doing wax. We're not going to be sharpening the edge or anything. I've already done that at the end of last season, and there's other videos on there more specific about that. We're just going to do a basic waxing. I'm not really the go-to person to talk about much on snowboarding, so this is probably the only video I'll make on it, unless you guys want another one. But to do like the basic, the most simple wax job, all you really need is some base cleaner maybe. You don't even need base cleaners, anything to kind of clean off the old surface. Then you need a scraper and wax so that you can apply it on and then scrape it off later. And then you need an iron. It doesn't have to be a specific snowboarding iron, but I mean, it is easiest just to do that, but you can use a regular iron. But there is a difference in how these things work, so I recommend just getting one. And then also something to kind of like a little woolite pad so you can kind of mark the wax, and it gives it a form to let the snow pass through your board a little easier. And anything else past that is just excess, really, for this. I found it easy to just get a kit. I got this one from Demon. They're not sponsoring this video or anything. They were just a good deal when I saw it online, so I bought it. It's got a few other things in here, like a gummy stone, another file brush. It's got a sharpening edge. It's got a file, some P-Tex in case you damage your board. So maybe check them out or check out other kits, just so you can see what other people use whenever they work with the board. I thought it was a pretty good deal to just get a kit, especially because a big majority of that is just the iron itself, so you might as well just get the rest of it with it and keep it all tucked away. They also got these neat little wall mounts in this one. I thought that was cool, but I live in an apartment and I don't feel like filling up the wall later, unless you guys just want a video about me filling the wall, but I don't really see a use in it. So now for the actual layout, you really just want a surface that you can put your board on and keep it kind of flat and sturdy and stable. This one's not too stable. It's just a fold-up table with some cardboard on it, but it's good enough to do this. But just if you can, just try to fasten your board onto somewhere. And I put some cardboard down and a little kind of like a tarp of silk underneath the table so that I can catch any shavings. So I guess you also need some kind of cloth to wipe down with for your base cleaner. So we're going to start with that, and don't actually spray this base cleaner directly on. Spray it onto your paper towel. Soak it, and then use that to clean your board, so that this base cleaner doesn't eat through too much of your base. It is still somewhat, a bit of a cleaner and acidic, so over time that will kind of eat away at your base's actual material instead of just the old dirt in there. So that's pretty much all this thing does, is get a little bit of dirt and junk out. So maybe do once or twice over with that, and you're good. Next, you're going to turn on your iron. A lot of times they have the dial on. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's a dial there to set the temperature. Maybe not the best place for it, but you set that, get it hot enough to heat up your wax, and then just take it across the board. And I like to point it down to help me, give an indicator of where this is going to drip from. And just let it drip wax across the board. And you start going around the edges, because that's where most of the time when you're carving, that's where it's most common for the wax to kind of get dried up on your board. So just kind of drip it around the board edge and then go through the inside is the most common thing, because you're going to be spreading this, but it's easier to spread if it's already starting off in the area that needs it the most. Now I probably could have heated this up a little bit more, but I know I'm going to be talking and my cord won't reach. So since my cord doesn't reach over there, I'm just going to pretend that we're at the edge of the board now, and I'll grab that edge later. Then afterwards, just kind of, you're done around the perimeter, just kind of go ahead and spread it through the middle. Just kind of give it a good spread. I mean, you can't really overuse wax. It would just take longer to spread it and scrape it off later, but you definitely make sure you overdo instead of underdo it, I guess. Alright, now that we have that on there, I'm going to go ahead and plug into the other side real quick. Maybe grab an extension cord so I can not be paused next time. Got the other edge of the board there. I got this kind of on an extension cord now so I can reach it. Next thing is you just go across the board and spread out the wax so that it makes an even layer. So you do a circular motion. Don't ever leave the iron on a single spot, because that'll kind of heat up the board too much and start to warp the base of it. Just make sure no matter what you're continuously moving this. So a lot of people like to do little circles around the board. So that's what we're going to do, and try to emphasize, again, getting around the edge of the board, because that's where most of the actual impact typically comes from you carving, switching, that's really the emphasis for the most of it. Make sure to get the inside too, but put a little bit more emphasis, make sure that you get an even layer on the edge specifically. I'm just going to start here. Let this get warmed up. See, I'm just doing a little circular motion. Looking at the wax, you can see the wax melts when you do this. This probably won't show up on camera, but the wax is melting from those droplets. So your objective is to kind of push that wax into a wider area. So it's heated up. You're just trying to make sure that you force it to spread. You just go ahead and do that, throughout the entire board. So just doing this circular motion across in like a slow dip. We'll eventually get that done. I'm going to turn up the heat now, because I'm not going to be talking to you guys, and then we can get this done a little faster. We will, through the magic of editing, make this seem like nothing. you find a spot that maybe you're going across it and it feels a little rough because there's not enough wax, then just grab that and throw a little bit more down in that area and work it into there. So if you feel like you're not having enough wax in, you can either try to pull it from somewhere else that has a little excess, or you can just put a little extra wax on that area and scrape it off like the rest. Alright, once you think you got it all, maybe just give it a quick run back over with the iron to try and see if there are any spots that you may have missed or that are short on some wax just really quickly. Alright, now that we're done, we let this sit for 30, 40 minutes, whatever, an hour, go do some dishes or watch some TV for a bit, whatever you have in your free time. Come back when it's cooled, and then we'll get ready to remove the top layer. We got it cooled down, the wax is all solidified, so now we can go ahead and take our scraper, start removing the wax. So what you want to do is start out with the edges here. It's just easier to just kind of knock those out right away, and then take this scraper and move it alongside. You're just going to be kind of removing shavings. So this is kind of the part where it'll get a little messier. Make sure that you have something to catch it to make the cleanup easier. But if you have one of these, I don't know what you call it, like a block or something. It came in my kit. It's just a scraper. Sometimes they come with little indents in here so that you can take that and put it on the edge, and it'll get both the side and the top of the corner there just at the same time. So that's kind of a neat feature if you guys do get one of those. Maybe try to find one that has that indent in to help you kind of start scraping away at the corners a little better. Otherwise, you could just take your scraper and just go along and just scrape it off yourself. But that's all we're going to start with, and just take your time with this process. Just make sure you get all that wax off. So you'll see some shaving start to build up. I'm going to kind of fast forward it through here with the magic of editing. But that's pretty much all we're doing is just scraping along the edges here. Now we got the edges pretty much cleaned off, we can go ahead and start working our way through most of the board. So I'm going to go ahead and say the hardest part of getting the wax removed is going to be on your tips, because that's kind of on a down angle and it'll start to flex a little bit more once you hit the edge. So if you can find a better way to support the board, or just hold it yourself to keep it firm, that really helps. I just have this sitting on some boxes evenly spaced so that for the majority of the push it'll go, but this will be kind of a focus point, is the ends of your boards. Make sure that when it comes down, it's going to push, so don't let up on it. You still have to make sure to keep pressing down. So there's two methods, I guess. People sometimes like to just drag it. Other people like to push. Basically, I don't really mind. I kind of go back and forth between the two, but just try to keep it even and straight. So don't go across your board. Just go ahead and follow the length of the board when you do this, because that'll keep the grooves that come from this going in the direction of travel when you're on the slopes. So if you go across the grain like this, then when the snow comes in, it's going to kind of exit in and out on the wrong direction. If you make the grain even across the board, then it'll just come and travel through these grooves that are made a little bit better, and that'll give you a better ride. So what we're just going to do now is do a push one, and just try to keep that as even as you can and straight. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight, and maybe you want a little bit of flow. Some people like doing that, but we're going to add some pattern later on with this. So right now, just try to get all of that excess wax off until it's just the base, because the wax is actually already poured into the base. It's in the base's pores, so anything on top is just excess. Eventually, if you're just, if you don't end up scraping it all off, the snow and stuff will take it away as you ride, but it will really impact your riding until that wax has been kind of stripped off. So it'll kind of slow you down if you don't get all this wax off and make a worse ride. So just keep pushing, keep it flat. Just don't dig in one side into here, because that's how you just cut out some of the wax and maybe damage the base, depending on what tool you're using. So it doesn't have to be a scraper, just anything flat that won't damage the base. And just keep repeating this until you feel comfortable that you have all of the wax removed from your board. Then once you have finished that side, just do the same thing on this side. Since I'm a righty, personally I think it's easier to just go ahead and flip it. And I can keep the mess limited to this side too. You know, that side's not going to get shavings on it. And it's just easier for me to go over to my strong side. So just a little tip for you guys, don't go this way and then the other side if it's less comfortable for you. Why bother putting in that extra effort if you can just make the table turn, or just walk to the other side of it and just. Alright, then after you think you've got all of it kind of shaved off, I put it back so I can flip it back, know where my bindings go, but let's give it another wipe down with the rag, cloth, paper towel, whatever, and then kind of just clean off your hand and run it across the surface and see if there's any kind of dead spots where your hand kind of catches a little too much, and then you know there's still a little bit of wax there. I say don't go like on this side, because typically this side of your hand will have more friction to it, so it might just be rubbing. So I just say go with the back of your knuckles and kind of run it across and check. And if you find a spot that still has wax on it, just go ahead and scrape it away. Anything like super minor will, like I said before, get kind of scraped off as you're going on the run, but it may, if it's a big enough lump, then it may just kind of affect how you ride at the beginning. And I don't know how long it would actually take it, so just try to take some time and make sure you got it pretty cleaned up on here. And then when you're done with that, we can flip it over and put our bindings back into place. So just give it a wipe down. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, no, we don't flip it over yet. Forgot. For a basic wax, this is it. That's all you need. But if you want to give some kind of preset grooves so that the snow coming in has a path to follow across your board, that's kind of set from you scraping. But if you want to do a little bit more, you can take this like a Scotch-Brite or something light and kind of run it across your board so that it makes little light grooves for that water channel to follow. Because what happens is when snow goes under your board, it gets compressed, heats up, and turns into water, and it runs in through these veins, these very small veins across your board. So if you give it a light channel to follow, then it'll make it pass through a lot easier and make your board run a lot smoother and faster than if it were to come in, hit the end of a groove, spread out, and hit more grooves. If it has a continuous flow, then it'll just be a better ride. I don't know if it's really noticeable or not, but it's, if you really scale it down, it does affect it. So you can just do a straight across kind of press in, or you can kind of give it a little path, whatever you want. This is kind of your own mark on your board. So you can see a little bit of wax is coming in from the pores when you do this, so don't really need to press down too much on it. Just kind of some light channel makes here, and that should kind of help you run a little bit smoother. Now we can go ahead, flip our board over, and get our bindings back on. For the purposes of this video, I'm not actually going to measure, my bindings or anything. Just I'm going to adjust them later on, but I know this video is getting long, so in case you don't know which binding goes where, because you flip your board around when you're doing this, you can't remember which is which. Typically on a directional board, the binding that has more distance to the end is your nose. The one that has less distance is your tail. So this side has less space between the tip and where it starts to slot. So this is my tail. Other times, if there's writing, it'll be typically towards the nose. This one doesn't have any, but well, I guess it does on this over here. It has a little bit of notes. But typically, if there's any kind of graphics, it'll be on the side of the nose versus the tail. And that'll be kind of some quick ways to know which binding to put where in case you forgot. Alright, and that's it, guys. You're ready, you're done, you wax your snowboard, you're set to go. Get on the slopes and have a good season. If you had any comments or questions that you wanted, put that in the comments below and I'll try to answer them as best I can. If you thought it was good, give it a thumbs up. If you thought it was bad, give it a thumbs down. Hopefully get more thumbs up. But thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you appreciate it. I'll see you next time.